The night sky over Johannesburg was ablaze with anticipation. FNB Stadium, a colossal beacon of South Africa's vibrant culture, pulsed with the energy of thousands. Fans from all corners of the continent had converged, their hearts beating in unison, awaiting the arrival of one man. As the lights dimmed, a deafening roar erupted, shaking the very foundations of the stadium. Suddenly, a spotlight pierced the darkness, illuminating a solitary figure on stage. Travis Scott had arrived, and with him, a tempest of emotion that would forever alter the lives of those present. The opening chords of Sicko Mode reverberated through the air, igniting a frenzy that bordered on the chaotic. Yet, amidst the euphoria, an undercurrent of tension simmered, hinting at the storm that was about to unfold. To understand the magnitude of this moment, we must journey back to the genesis of Travis Scott's odyssey. Born Jock Berman Webster I on April 30, 1991, in Houston, Texas, his early life was a tapestry woven with threads of aspiration and adversity. Raised in Missouri City, a suburban enclave, young Jock was ensnared by the magnetic pull of music. The rhythmic cadences of his environment, from the soulful hymns of the church to the raw beats of the streets, became the soundtrack of his youth. Yet, the path was strewn with obstacles. His parents, adherents to the doctrines of conventional success, viewed his musical inclinations with skepticism. But Jock was undeterred, his spirit unyielding, his dreams impervious to the doubts that sought to derail them. The metamorphosis from Jock Webster to Travis Scott was not merely a change of name, but a rebirth of identity. The moniker Travis was an homage to his favorite uncle, a figure emblematic of resilience and rebellion. Scott paid tribute to Kid Cudi, born Scott Mescudi, whose music was a lighthouse guiding him through the fog of uncertainty. This new identity was a declaration, a manifesto of intent. Travis Scott was not just a name. It was a persona, a vessel through which Jock would channel his innermost turmoil and triumphs. The stage was set, the players in position, but the script was yet unwritten. Little did he know, the narrative that would unfold would be one of meteoric rises and abyssal plunges. In the crucible of Houston's vibrant music scene, Travis honed his craft. Collaborations with local artists, late-night studio sessions, and performances in dimly lit clubs became the crucible in which his artistry was forged. It was during this period that he caught the attention of industry titans. A chance encounter with T.I. led to an impromptu audition in a parking lot, a setting as unorthodox as the artist himself. Impressed by his raw talent and unbridled energy, T.I. took him under his wing, offering a glimpse into a world that had hitherto been a distant dream. Yet, the corridors of power are labyrinthine, and for every door that opened, another seemed to close. The journey was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The release of his debut mixtape, Old Pharaoh, in 2013, was both a triumph and a trial. While it garnered critical acclaim, it also exposed him to the merciless scrutiny of the public eye. The music industry, a beast with an insatiable appetite, demanded more hits, more headlines, more of Travis Scott. The pressure was relentless, a constant companion that whispered doubts into his ears. Yet within this maelstrom, Travis found solace in creation. Each beat, each lyric, was a cathartic release, a testament to his resilience. But the higher one ascends, the thinner the air becomes, and the fall, should it come, is all the more devastating. As his star ascended, so did the complexities of his existence. The dichotomy of fame and personal life became increasingly pronounced. Relationships were tested, friendships strained, and the line between Travis Scott, the artist, and Jock Webster, the man, blurred. The birth of his daughter, Stormy, in 2018, was a beacon of light in an otherwise tumultuous period. Fatherhood brought with it a new set of challenges and responsibilities, adding layers to an already intricate tapestry. Yet, amidst the chaos, there were moments of clarity, instances where the noise subsided, and the path ahead seemed illuminated. But shadows lurked at the periphery, waiting for the opportune moment to encroach. The Astroworld Festival of 2021 was envisioned as a homecoming, a celebration of his roots and his journey. However, it descended into tragedy with a crowd surge resulting in the loss of lives and countless injuries. The aftermath was a cacophony of accusations, lawsuits, and a media frenzy that sought to dissect every facet of the incident. Travis was thrust into the eye of the storm, his every move scrutinized, his intentions questioned. The weight of guilt, whether warranted or not, was a heavy mantle to bear. The incident cast a long shadow, one that threatened to eclipse his career and legacy. But from the depths of despair, a spark of determination ignited. Redemption was not just desired, it was imperative. In the wake of the tragedy, Travis retreated from the limelight, embarking on a journey of introspection and healing. Philanthropic endeavors, including the establishment of the Cactus Jack Foundation, aimed to give back to the community and mend the fractures left in the wake of Astroworld. Yet, the road to redemption was fraught with obstacles. Public opinion wavered, industry ties grew tenuous, and the specters of the past loomed large. But Travis was resolute. Each initiative, each act of goodwill, was a step towards absolution. The flames of controversy had scorched him, but they had not consumed him. Instead, they forged him anew, tempered by experience and emboldened by the lessons of his tribulations. As Travis Scott took the stage in Johannesburg, the weight of the Astroworld tragedy still clung to him like a phantom. Fans cheered wildly, their voices merging into a singular roar of adoration, but deep inside, Travis felt the burden of redemption. This was more than a concert. It was a statement, a declaration that he had risen from the ashes of the past. The bass thundered through the arena, and for a brief moment he closed his eyes, letting the energy of thousands surge through him. But even as the crowd swayed in euphoria, something in the air felt different. Something electric, something unpredictable. His journey to South Africa was not just another tour stop. It was an escape, a new beginning. After the Astroworld incident, Travis had gone silent, withdrawing into the shadows of controversy. Lawsuits piled up, media outlets dissected his every move, and the world questioned if he would ever return the same. But in the quiet of that storm, he found himself drawn to Africa. Its energy, its resilience, its ability to transform pain into art. This was not just a performance. It was a pilgrimage to a land that understood struggle, reinvention, and the power of sound. Long before he arrived in Johannesburg, whispers of his visit had already spread across the city. Fans clamored for tickets, desperate to witness a moment in history. For many, Travis represented more than just music. He embodied survival, a symbol of overcoming demons and still emerging victorious. But beneath the surface, controversy brewed. Some questioned whether he deserved another chance, whether his return to the stage was too soon. Others feared that his high-energy performances could lead to chaos once again. The debate raged on, but Travis had already made up his mind. He would face it all, head-on. The days leading up to the concert were filled with uncertainty. Travis roamed the streets of Johannesburg in disguise, absorbing the city's rhythm, its pulse. He met with young artists in Soweto, immersing himself in their beats, their struggles, their stories. They reminded him of himself, hungry, relentless, unwilling to be ignored. In those moments, something reignited within him. The fire he thought had dimmed after Astroworld sparked back to life. This wasn't just about redemption anymore. It was about proving that music could heal, that he could still create without destruction following in his wake. But on the day of the show, tension simmered behind the scenes. Security teams whispered amongst themselves, exchanging nervous glances. Johannesburg's authorities had already issued warnings, any sign of trouble, and the concert would be shut down. Travis's team urged him to tone down his performance, to hold back the wild energy that had defined him for years. But how could he? He had built his empire on unfiltered chaos, on raw, uninhibited emotion. To suppress that now felt like surrender. And so, With a deep breath, he stepped onto the stage, determined to give the crowd everything without losing control. The first song dropped, and the stadium erupted. Flames shot into the night sky. Bass lines hit like thunder, and Travis moved with a fury that was both hypnotic and dangerous. The crowd surged forward, bodies colliding in a sea of uncontainable energy. Security teams tensed, their hands hovering near their radios, ready to intervene. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of descending into mayhem, the audience found balance. The mosh pit still formed, the energy still roared, but there was an unspoken understanding, a rhythm, a respect. For the first time in years, Travis felt truly in control. As he performed hit after hit, memories of his past concerts flashed in his mind. The stampedes, the screams, the accusations. But tonight was different. The South African crowd wasn't just here to rage, they were here to connect. Between songs he paused, looking over the sea of faces. He spoke, not with his usual rapid-fire hype, but with sincerity. He acknowledged the pain, the lessons learned. The crowd fell silent, hanging onto every word. Then, with a nod, he dove into the next track, and the stadium exploded once more. This was Travis Scott reborn. But just as he thought he had tamed the storm, an unexpected force threatened to shake it all. Midway through his set, a group of protesters infiltrated the outer gates, their chants rising above the music. No more chaos, no more danger. They yelled. News had spread fast. Some still blamed him for the past, and they wanted to make sure he knew it. Security rushed in, but Travis held up a hand, stopping them. Instead of fear, he felt something else resolve. He grabbed the mic, his voice cutting through the noise, and for the first time in his career, he addressed his critics head-on. "I hear you," he said, his voice steady. "I've made mistakes. I've learned. But music isn't about destruction. It's about building something bigger than ourselves. If you're here, it means you care. And I care too." A hush fell over the stadium. The protesters hesitated, caught off guard by his honesty. Some turned and walked away. Others stayed listening. And then a single voice in the crowd started chanting his name. Then another, and another, until the entire stadium pulsed with unity. The protest had not been silenced. It had been absorbed into the music, into the moment. As the final song rang out, Travis Scott stood on stage, looking out at the sea of people who had come not just for a concert, but for a movement. Johannesburg had given him something priceless, a second chance, a reminder that he was more than his past mistakes. As the final beat dropped, he knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. Travis Scott was back, not as the reckless storm he once was, but as something even more powerful, an artist reborn in the fire of redemption. The roar of the Johannesburg crowd still echoed in Travis Scott's mind as he sat alone in his hotel room, staring out at the city skyline. The night had been triumphant, electrifying even, but a storm brewed within him. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages from fans, critics, and industry insiders. Some hailed his South African return as legendary. Others weren't convinced. Headlines swirled across news platforms. Travis Scott's redemption, or just another spectacle. The weight of his past clung to him, refusing to loosen its grip. He had won over thousands that night, but the battle for his true redemption had only just begun. In the silence of the dimly lit room, Travis let himself remember. He saw flashes of Astroworld, lights flickering, bodies pressed together, the moment the music turned into chaos. The screams, the accusations, the lawsuits. It had been a nightmare that refused to fade, a shadow that followed him across continents. He had come to South Africa to escape, to prove something, but deep down, he wondered, was it enough? Could he ever outrun what happened, or was he doomed to carry it forever? He rubbed his temples, exhaustion settling into his bones, but sleep was the last thing on his mind. A knock at the door shattered his thoughts. His manager, Corey, stepped in, phone in hand, face tense. "We have a problem," he said, his voice low. Travis exhaled, already bracing himself. "It's the US media. Some are saying your concert in Johannesburg was reckless, that you're trying to revive the rage culture. Corey passed him the phone, where a viral article blazed across the screen. History repeats itself. Is Travis Scott a time bomb waiting to explode? Travis felt his stomach tighten. He had given his all to make this performance different, controlled, yet the world still saw him as the chaos bringer. Anger flared in his chest, but behind it, fear lurked. No matter what he did, no matter how much he tried to evolve, it seemed the world refused to see past his mistakes. "I can't keep running from this," Travis murmured. Corey nodded, understanding. "Then don't face it." The words hung heavy in the air. Travis knew what he had to do, but it wouldn't be easy. He had spent years building an image of rebellion, of unfiltered energy. To suddenly shift, to own his mistakes publicly, it could either destroy him or set him free. Determined, Travis made a call. The next morning, he announced an impromptu press conference in Johannesburg. The decision sent shockwaves through social media. Some believed he was finally going to take responsibility. Others expected him to deflect, to double down. By the time he arrived at the venue, cameras flashed wildly, journalists pushing forward with questions before he had even spoken. He adjusted the mic, took a deep breath, and for the first time, let down the walls he had spent years building. "I know what you all want to ask me," he started, "so let's talk." A tense silence filled the room before a reporter spoke up. "Travis, do you take responsibility for what happened at Astroworld?" The question cut through him like a blade, but he didn't flinch. "I've thought about that night every single day since it happened," he admitted. "I didn't see everything. I didn't hear everything. But I know people were hurt. I know lives were lost. And I know that, as the one on that stage, I carry some of that weight." His voice wavered slightly, but he pressed on. "I can't change the past, but I can learn. I can do better. And I will." The room buzzed with murmurs. Some nodded, impressed by his honesty. Others remained skeptical. "What do you say to those who believe your concerts are still dangerous?" Another journalist asked. Travis leaned forward. "Energy isn't dangerous, but it has to be controlled, respected. That's why I worked with my team to ensure last night's show was different. No overcrowding, no unsafe environments, just music, pure and powerful." He paused, letting his words settle. "I love my fans. I never want to see them hurt. If people still think I don't care, I can't change their minds overnight. But I'll prove it, through action." As he left the press conference, Travis felt something shift inside him. He had spent years believing that silence was his best defense, that the music should speak for itself. But sometimes words mattered. Owning the truth mattered. And for the first time, he felt lighter, as if the chains of his past had loosened, if only slightly. But redemption wasn't earned in a single night or a single speech. He knew the road ahead was long, and the world would be watching his every step. But for the first time in a long while, he was ready. That night, he visited a local youth music center in Soweto, a place he had quietly donated to during his time in South Africa. The young artists there didn't ask about his past, his controversies. They just wanted to talk about beats, lyrics, the future. They saw him not as a headline, but as an artist, one who had climbed to the top and survived the fall. As he listened to their music, their hunger, their dreams, he was reminded of why he started all of this in the first place. Not for fame, not for power, but for moments like this. As Travis walked out into the warm South African night, he knew he wasn't free from his past yet. The world would still judge him, mistakes couldn't be erased, but something had changed. He had stopped running, he had faced the storm, and he was still standing. His time in Africa wasn't just about performing. It was about rediscovery, about rebuilding himself from the ashes. And as he looked up at the star-studded sky, one thought echoed in his mind. The story of Travis Scott wasn't over yet. The flight back to Los Angeles felt suffocating. Despite the success of his Johannesburg concert, Travis Scott couldn't shake the weight of his past. Media outlets continued to question his motives, and the US press was unforgiving. He knew his redemption wasn't guaranteed, but the need to prove himself was overwhelming. When his team proposed a public interview, he agreed, hoping it could finally address the lingering questions. He sat across from the interviewer, his nose tight, but he understood the moment had arrived to confront his past and not run from it. "Do you think you deserve a second chance?" the interviewer asked. Travis took a breath, then spoke honestly. "I understand why people are angry. I'll never erase what happened at Astroworld, but music is my life, and I've learned from my mistakes. I'm doing everything I can to make sure it doesn't happen again." His words weren't a perfect fix, but they were real. In that moment, he realized that redemption wasn't just about apologizing, it was about action. It was about proving through his music and the safety of his shows that he was truly committed to change. The press conference set the stage for his next step, rebuilding his reputation through action, not just words. Travis launched a new initiative focused on concert safety, working alongside experts to ensure his performances would never endanger his fans. But not everyone accepted his efforts. Some venues refused to book him, and brands hesitated. For the first time in his career, Travis wasn't an invincible force. He was a man with a lot to prove. Yet, despite the resistance, he remained steadfast in his commitment to evolve. Months later, Travis finally got a chance to perform in the US again, but this time, it wasn't a massive arena. Instead, it was an intimate venue, a chance to re-establish his bond with fans in a setting that demanded real connection. As the music played, Travis felt something different. The chaos was controlled, the energy was raw, but the crowd was respectful. For the first time, he wasn't just performing, he was healing, both for himself and his audience. When the final note played and the applause echoed, Travis knew this wasn't just a comeback. It was a transformation. He wasn't the same artist who once thrived on chaos. He was someone who had learned, who had faced his past and tried to make amends. The road to redemption wasn't over, but he had taken the first step. And as he walked off that stage, he understood that the real test of his legacy wasn't the music he created. It was the way he used it to change, to grow, and to connect.
And with that, this part of this journey comes to a breathtaking close. But this is not the end, far from it. The next part will take you even deeper into a world of adventure, mystery, and shocking twists you never saw coming. What new challenges await? What secrets remain untold? You won't want to miss what happens next. Stay tuned for the next thrilling part. It's bigger, bolder, and more suspenseful than ever. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep the legend alive. See you in the next adventure. And must comment your point of views, #stay tuned.